Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card. Today I've got a pretty clean and simple card. I put a sympathy sentiment on it, but you can use pretty much any sentiment. I'm using my Mama Elephant Fem frames, just the inside frame actually, and I've got the new stitched circles by Simon Says Stamp. I'm also using the Songbird branch and the Falling Snow stencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is take one of these stitched circles and the inside frame of the Fem frames, and I'm going to put my circle so that there's an equal distance between the top and the two sides. And I'm using my magnetic platform to keep it in place, and then I'll cut it in the Sizzix. And you'll see, I'll show you here that the stitches are actually on the inside and the outside of the cut line. So I'm going to place this over a card base, and I'm going to kind of dot a circle in there so that I don't have too much to erase later. And then I'm going to color. I've already die cut the branches and the bird, and I'm going to color it with some khaki Simon Says Stamp ink and a sponge dauber. I'm going to be really careful about this because the branches are pretty fragile, so I'm going to use a very light twisting motion to get the ink onto these branches. And then the bird, I'm going to be using some Copic markers, and he's just going to be sitting on the branch, so I'm going to go ahead and cut his feet off. Now I'm going to adhere him to a piece of scratch paper so that I don't have my fingers in the way when I'm trying to color it. So first I'm going to take some R29, I'm going to feather it downward, and then I'll take R59 and I'm going to feather that upward. And after I was finished with this, I really didn't like how it was blending in the middle, so I decided to go back with my R29 and do a little bit more coloring to get it to blend. Now I'll remove that from the scratch sheet and take my Copic liner, which is the 0.3, and I'll just draw a little eye right there. Now I'm going to adhere my branches to the card base using a 2A glue pen. I'm going to have one branch coming from one side and one branch from the other side, and I want it kind of coming out from the circle because my panel is going to lay on top of this. So I'm going to do the same thing with this other branch with 2A glue pen. And these are EK Tool tweezers. They're great, and I'll have a link to that. Next, I'm going to be using the Falling Snow stencil and some embossing paste. So what I like to do is adhere the cardstock to the craft sheet and then adhere the stencil to the craft sheet and the cardstock. And this surgical tape, this micropore paper tape, is great because it actually adheres to the craft mat. Now you see that I kind of masked off a little bit on the side because I want to make sure that I don't get any embossing paste on the edges because part of my card base is going to be showing. So I'm going to use my palette knife to smooth out some embossing paste just where the circle area is going to be. And then I'll immediately take that off and wash it. It'll come right off with some water. And then I'll come back because you have a few minutes, and I'll go ahead and sprinkle this with some Snow Sparkle embossing powder, which is white embossing powder with some glitter in it, and it's made by Wow. So I'm going to set that off to dry before I heat set it. Now I love this Altenew set. It's got some really great sentiments in it. One of them is a sympathy sentiment, so I'm going to stamp it with some sepia ink. I didn't want to use black because I thought I'd just be a little bit too dark, just too stark, so I wanted something a little warmer. I'm using brown. Now you'll notice that this is no longer my card base. I actually had to cut it into a panel, and I'll explain why on my blog. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to a card base. And then I'll take my panel and put some foam adhesive. This is just Dimensionals. It's my favorite foam adhesive to use because it has all these little circles. I'm going to put it all over the back, take the backing off, and then I'll lay it right on top. Of course, I didn't do it exactly perfect, so I pulled it off. It usually takes an average of 2 times to get this right. Alright, the next thing finally is to put the bird on, and I decided because I had that embossing paste kind of in the way that I was just going to put a big chunk of glossy accents and stick him right on there, and it did a great job of sticking him on there. And that's it. So it's a pretty clean and simple card. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.